Hey, Blue Crew. I'm your host, Blue Baby. We're about to have the conversation that everyone thinks about, but not everybody talk about. Before we begin, I want to be really clear. The cases discussed in this episode are based on publicly available information available at the time that this episode was recorded. So some cases have reached official legal conclusions, while others, including the death of Nolan Wells, remain under active investigation. I'm not here to determine guilt, point fingers, or encourage anybody to speculate. I'm here to open up a thoughtful conversation about friendship, loyalty, personal responsibility, and how we protect one another. As more facts come out, maybe our understanding may change, but today we're not trying to solve anything. We're asking what we can learn and how we can do better for the people that we love. Listeners are encouraged to follow official updates and verify reporting for any case specific development. So, with that being said, let me start off by asking you a question. What if one of the biggest dangers in your child's life isn't a stranger, but the wrong circle of friends? What if people they laugh with today are shaping choices that could change tomorrow? Most of us teach our children to be careful around strangers. We say it early and we say it often, but how often do we teach them how to recognize unhealthy friendships? How often do we teach them that real friendship is about fun, yes, but also responsibility, loyalty, accountability, and protection? Welcome to Blue Mindz Podcast, where we believe in real conversations, powerful stories, and lasting impact. I'm your host, Blue Baby, and today we're talking just like we're sitting all together in a living room. Parents, young people, and friends, because this conversation matters. Publicly reported stories involving Shanquella Robinson, Kenneka Jenkins, and Nolan Wells have caused many of us to stop and reflect. While each case is different and has its own fact, circumstances, and legal process, they all raise really important questions about friendship, responsibility, and looking out for one another. This isn't about solving cases or assigning blame. It's about asking what these tragedies can teach us about friendship, family, and communities. Because friendship isn't just about who's standing beside you, it's about who's willing to stand up for you. So let's have that conversation. When we say friend, we often think about people we laugh with, text, travel with, and make memories with. But let's slow down for a second and really ask ourselves this: what actually makes someone a friend, a really good friend, a true, honest friend? If I'm being honest, I think somewhere along the way, we watered down the word friendship. A person can have hundreds of followers and still have no one that they can truly depend on. Sometimes we don't know the difference between popularity and loyalty until life puts us in a moment where it matters. A real friend isn't just someone who helps you have a good time. A real friend shows you who they are when things start going wrong. A real friend speaks up, helps. They help you get home safely, calms things down, and stays when everyone else walks away. Sometimes the best friends in the room is the one willing to say, "No, I'm not leaving you alone." These moments may feel uncomfortable, but they can save lives. A lot of times we talk about loyalty like it means standing beside someone no matter what. But I don't think that's the whole picture. Real loyalty tells the truth. Real loyalty protects. Real loyalty is willing to disappoint someone today if it means they're still alive tomorrow. And that brings me to something else I want us to sit with for a minute. The people we surround ourselves with shape us more than we often realize. There's an old saying, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." While that isn't true in every circumstance, there is wisdom in it. The people closest to us influence the decisions we make, the standards we accept, and sometimes even the direction our lives take. That's why choosing your circle isn't about being judgmental. It's about being intentional. Not everyone who enters your life should have the same level of access to it. Some people encourage growth, others encourage compromise. Some challenge you to become a better person, a better you. Others slowly normalize choices that pull you away from your own values. The difficult part is that unhealthy relationships don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they look really exciting. It looks fun. Sometimes they feel accepted. And sometimes they seem harmless until one decision changes everything. So, right here, right now, I want us to ask ourselves a few honest questions. Who are the people influencing my life the most? Do they encourage me to become a better person? Because that's what life is about, me becoming a better person, you becoming a better person. Do they challenge me when I'm wrong? Would they protect me if I couldn't protect myself? And perhaps the hardest question of them all is that, am I that kind of friend to someone else? Because before we ask who's in our corner, we have to ask whether we're standing in someone else's. That's the kind of friendship our families need, our communities need, and our world needs more of. As we continue, I want to bring this conversation a little closer to home. A moment ago, we talked about what real friendship looks like. Not friendship based on convenience, not friendship based on popularity, but friendships built on responsibility, accountability, and protection. Now I want to talk through three stories that have stayed with a lot of people, not to compare them, but to look at the responsibility questions they raise. Each story has its own facts, circumstances, and legal process. But what I'm doing is asking us to look at the questions these stories raise about friendship, responsibility, and whether we really look out for one another. A lot of us remember hearing publicly reported details about Shanquella. According to public reporting, she traveled to Mexico with people she reportedly considered friends. The trip ended in tragedy. Public reporting described video footage that reportedly appeared to show her being assaulted while others were present. The case sparked outrage across the country, and people were left asking some painful questions. Many members of the public asked why someone did not appear to step in sooner. As publicly reported, Mexican authorities classified her death as a homicide, and the U.S. Department of Justice later announced it would not pursue federal charges based on the evidence available at that time. Regardless of where the legal process ended, one truth remains. Without assigning blame beyond official findings, the broader lesson still asks us to think about the responsibilities we have to each other when someone appears to be in danger. Real friendship isn't passive. It isn't silent when someone is in danger. It doesn't confuse standing by with standing up. Sometimes protecting a friend means interrupting a situation before it gets worse. Sometimes it means saying this isn't right. Sometimes it means being willing to lose a friendship because protecting someone's life matters more than protecting someone's feelings. Kenneka Jenkins. Then there's a heartbreaking, publicly reported story of Kenneka Jenkins, and many people still remember how heavy that felt. According to public reporting, she attended a hotel party. Later, she was reported to have become separated from the people she arrived with. She was later found inside a walk in freezer. The Cook County medical examiner ruled her death as accidental, citing hypothermia with alcohol intoxication and the effects of topiramate as the cause. Although the investigation reached as an official conclusion, the story continued to prompt public discussion about safety, accountability, and what it means to look out for someone in a vulnerable moment. And so, for this conversation, the broader safety question is this: when someone in your group becomes vulnerable, who takes responsibility? Who notices that they're missing? Who refuses to leave until everyone is accounted for? We've all heard someone say, they're grown, they'll be okay. But what happens when everybody thinks somebody else is paying attention? Sometimes tragedy isn't caused by one dramatic moment. Sometimes it's made worse by a series of small moments where everyone assumes someone else would step in. Friendship means refusing to make that assumption. Nolan Wells. More recently, many people have been following public updates about the ongoing investigation into the death of Nolan Wells. As of this recording, the investigation remains ongoing and publicly available information. It may continue to change. And out of respect for everyone involved, I'm not here to speculate about what happened nor to draw conclusions that investigators may not have reached as of yet. That's not my role. I want us to think about a broader safety question. If someone in your group disappeared, what would you do? Would everyone immediately stop looking after themselves and start looking for that person? Would someone call for help right away? Would everyone stay together? Would someone refuse to leave until they knew that everyone was safe? Those are questions every friend group should think about prior to them ever facing that type of situation. Because emergencies don't announce themselves, they happen unexpectedly. And in those moments, our character often speaks louder than our words would ever. Even though these stories are different, they leave us all with similar questions. How well do we really know the people in our circle? Do we encourage one another to make wise decisions? Do we speak up when something feels wrong? Do we protect one another? Or do we stay silent because speaking up feels uncomfortable? I believe one of the greatest acts of friendship is intervention. Not because you want to control someone, but because you care enough to protect them. Sometimes intervention sounds like this: I'm driving you home. There's no question about it. I'm staying with you. We're leaving. We're leaving together. Or I'm calling 911. I'm calling your parents. You don't have to like me today. I just need for you to be alive tomorrow. Those aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of courage. They're signs of maturity. They're signs of love, because friendships isn't measured by the memories we make together. It's measured by how we care for one another when life becomes uncertain. And before we move to the next part of this conversation, let me leave you with one question. If your best friend needed you tonight, what kind of friend would you be? Now let's talk about what happens when everyone else assumes that someone else will step in. This is where the bystander effect becomes important. A moment ago, we talked about 3 different stories that ask us the same question. What does friendship look like when it matters most? Now I want to talk about something called the bystander effect. Don't let that term make it sound complicated. It's actually something many of us have seen before. It's that moment when something happens and everybody looks around, almost waiting for somebody else to move first. Who's going to move first? The bystander effect is the idea that when more people are around during an emergency, each person may assume someone else is going to step in and help. Let's not assume. Everyone is waiting. Everyone is watching. Everyone thinks someone else has already called. Someone else has already checked. Someone else knows what to do. And sometimes no one does anything. Now, every situation is different. Don't get me wrong. Like, there are moments when people are afraid, moments when they don't understand what's happening, moments when stepping in could put you in danger. I'm not suggesting that every situation is simple or that every person has the same ability to help. But there is one thing every one of us can do. We can choose not to ignore someone who may need help. Sometimes helping means calling 911. Sometimes it means staying with someone instead of leaving them alone. Sometimes it means getting another trusted adult. Sometimes it means refusing to let someone drive. Sometimes it means speaking up when something doesn't feel right. Helping doesn't always require having all the answers. Sometimes it simply requires caring enough to act. I also want to say something about the way our culture handles painful moments right now. Too often, our first instinct is to reach for our phones instead of reaching for the right person in front of us. We record, we live stream, we upload, we comment. We forget that there's a real human being in front of us. Someone's worst day should never become someone else's entertainment. Before we ask, did anybody get the video? Maybe we should ask, did anyone make sure they were okay? Technology can be a powerful tool. It can document the truth. It can help investigators. It can bring awareness, but awareness should never replace compassion. The first priority should always be protecting life, because likes, views, shares, and comments will never matter more than a human being. Now, let me talk directly to the parents for a moment. If you're raising children, teenagers, or young adults, this part is especially for you. Here's one thing I've learned, and I think a lot of parents know this deep down. Children don't tell us everything. They really don't. I don't care if you're in a loving home or they trust you enough. Even when we have good relationships, young people sometimes keep things to themselves because they're embarrassed or because they don't want to disappoint us. They think we won't understand, or simply because they believe they can handle it on their own. And that doesn't mean that you're a bad parent, by no means. It makes you a parent. We can't control every decision our children make. We can't be everywhere they go, although some of us want to be. We can't choose every person they spend their time with, but we can prepare them. And that's why I believe this with my whole heart. Early prevention is the best remedy. Don't wait until your child starts driving. Don't wait until high school or until they're heading off to college. Start right now. Right now is the time to teach them what healthy friendships looks like. To teach them that loyalty never requires risking their safety. Teach them that it's okay to walk away from situations that just doesn't feel right. Teach them that asking for help is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. And remind them over and over again, if you're ever in trouble, call me. I don't care what time it is. I don't care if you're afraid. We'll figure everything else out later. I just need you to make it home today, tonight. Those words matter. They create safety. They create trust. They remind our children that home is still a place they can run toward, not away from. Parents, one of the hardest things is figuring out when a friendship may not be healthy for your child. It's rarely obvious. I mean, sometimes unhealthy friendships looks exciting. It looks popular. Sometimes it seems harmless. That's why it's important to pay attention to patterns. Does your child seem like a different person around certain friends? Are they becoming a little more secretive? Are they suddenly making choices that don't reflect the values you worked so hard to teach them? Do they seem afraid of disappointing their friends more than disappointing themselves? Are they constantly being pressured to prove themselves? Healthy friendships should encourage honesty, respect, growth, and accountability. They should not be built on manipulation, pressure, or fear. One of the best things we can do is get to know the people that our children spend time with. Invite them to your home, learn their names, talk with them. Create an environment where your child doesn't feel like they have to have their friendships from you, because when communication stays open, guess what? So do opportunities to guide them. And let me leave you with this thought. Don't underestimate the power of ordinary conversations. The conversations in the car, at the dinner table, before school, after practice, before bed, those moments may not seem important, but they build trust. And trust is often what gives a child courage to make one call when they need the help the most. One honest conversation today may become one life-changing decision tomorrow. So ask the questions, listen without rushing to judge, correct with love, lead with consistency. And never stop reminding your children that home is a place of grace, guidance, and safety, because I truly believe that this is why prevention has to begin early. As this episode moves toward final thoughts, I want to bring the heart of this message back home. If we're sitting together in my living room, this is a thought I want you to take with you. Today wasn't really about the 3 cases. Those cases are so touching, so sad. But it wasn't about the headlines. It wasn't about social media. And it certainly wasn't about deciding guilt or innocence. Today was about something that's so important. It was about us. It was about the choices that we make, the people that we trust, the people we influence, and the kind of friend each of us choose to become. Because before we ask, who's in my corner? Maybe we should first ask, am I in someone else's? Am I the person who notices when something isn't right? Am I the person who speaks up when everyone else stays silent? Am I the person who protects instead of pressure? Am I the person who walks towards someone in need instead of walking away? Those are questions that's worth asking, not just today, but every day. I know raising children is not easy. Trust me. You won't know every friend. You won't hear every conversation. You won't be present for every decision, parents, that they make. And listen, that's okay. The goal isn't to know everything. We can't possibly know everything. The goal is to build enough trust that when life gets difficult, they know that they can come to you, they can count on you. So hug your children a little tighter tonight. Ask one more question before they leave the house. Learn the names of the people they spend their time with. Listen more than you lecture. Create a home where honesty feels safe. Remind them often, no mistake is too big to call home. No situation is too embarrassing to ask for help. No matter what happens, I'll always answer the phone. Because sometimes one conversation, one uncomfortable question, one phone call can change the course of someone else's life. And a message to young people. If you're a young person listening today, I really want you to hear me on this. Please hear me on this. Choose your friends carefully, not because anyone is perfect, but because the people closest to you influence your decisions more than you even realize. Choose friends who celebrate your success. Choose friends who respect your boundaries. Choose friends who challenge you to become a better you. Choose friends who tell you the truth, even when it's hard to hear, and be willing to accept that truth. Choose friends who would rather lose your approval for one night than to lose you forever. That's really important. And be that kind of friend in return. Because friendships isn't measured by how much fun y'all have together. It's measured by how you care for one another when life becomes difficult. Real friendship is not only about standing beside someone, it's about who's willing to stand up for you. You know, as I was preparing for this episode, one thought kept coming back to me over and over again. Just kept on coming back, and that's that character isn't revealed by how you act when everyone's watching. Character is revealed by what you do when someone else's life depends on you. Be the friend who notices. Be the friend who says, I'm not leaving you alone. Be the friend who makes that call. Be the friend who chooses courage over comfort. Be the parent who starts the difficult conversations before they're necessary. Be the person who reminds someone that life matters. Because we never know when one small decision, one act of compassion, or one moment of courage could save a life. Thank you for sitting with me through this conversation here on Blue Mindz. I never take your time for granted. And if today's conversation challenged you, share it with someone you care about, not for views, but because meaningful conversations can change lives. And I want to be a part of changing lives. Let's normalize checking on our friends, asking the difficult questions, walking away from unsafe situations and protecting one another. Thank you for joining me for this special episode of Blue Mindz, where we believe in real conversations, powerful stories, and lasting impact. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and be the kind of friend who makes sure everyone makes it home.